Good morning, everybody. So we are winding up. This is A Gracious Space. It's the fall edition. I'm Julie Bogart from Brave Writer. You know that if you're on this page. If you haven't liked this page yet, I invite you to like the like button. You can also go to where it shows that you're following, and you can click the drop-down menu and check notifications for live video and any updates if you want to make sure you don't miss anything. A lot of people ask me, how can I make sure I don't miss it? That's how you do it. Today, my Instagram handle, my account, and the Learning Well community are swapping. We're taking over each other's accounts. So if you go to @JulieBraveWriter and @LearningWell on Instagram, you will see their photos on my account and my photos on their account. We are sharing the love, spreading it around, and it would be awesome if you followed all of us. Let's really build up this communication and make sure that we have a good time together on all of these devices. It's a great way to showcase the learning of your family and Brave Writer all together in different venues. So glad. Let's see here. You said, don't worry, it only goes up half the screen and shows your face. Oh, well, great. These devices every time, broadcasting, it changes every day, right? So good. Good. All right. So go to Instagram, follow me, Julie Brave Writer, follow the Learning Well community, and please leave comments. I love reading them. They make my day every time you do it. And then if you also don't know about our other Facebook page, it is Poetry Tea Time Families, and our other Instagram account is just Poetry Tea Time. So those are two other places where we share what you do. I don't actually have children at home. When mine come home for Thanksgiving, I promise you will see a Poetry Tea Time photo of our family that will be current. But until then, there's all of you having these incredible experiences with your children, and we share one that we think tickled our fancy every single day. And so if you use the hashtag Poetry Tea Time, that's how I find you, and maybe your family will be featured on our account. Thank you so much. Yeah, Mia, it's hard to keep up with all social media. I don't. But what I do is I hang out in the places that nourish me. And for me, it's Facebook and Instagram, which are my two faves. All right, then. This has been an incredible run. If you have been reading along with me, even if you just joined us today, if you've found these sessions valuable, would you mind leaving a review at the Amazon page? I will post the link in the description once this is over, and just share with other people whether or not A Gracious Space Fall was valuable for you. It's one of the ways that we start showing up. I've been off of Amazon pretty much the entire career of Brave Writer because we self-publish, and I wasn't in the typical category of books. You know, we do curriculum. But this is a place now where people who don't know about homeschooling, don't know about Brave Writer, are discovering us. So I really, really sincerely appreciate any reviews that you post on Amazon. Thank you for that. There is a link for the Gracious Space Winter, and that is also in this description. Enough marketing, enough mentioning of all the things that we're doing. And I'm going to share something special to look forward to tomorrow. So if you come back tomorrow, I'll tell you all about that. Okay, let's begin. We're reading from A Gracious Space Fall. Today is day 43, and the title of today's reading is Trust Your Instinct. One of the most frustrating aspects of being a home educator is that you often have the right ideas, but you get sidelined by the ghost of public school past, the homeschool forum you are on, the complicated agenda of the program you bought, or the Google descriptions of disorders that you are now pasting over your fabulous child. I have noticed in my daily phone calls with moms that most have excellent instincts about what their kids need. I know they are on the right track when I hear them say, "It just felt right to help her. She seems so much more confident now." Or, "I noticed that he responded well when I asked his opinion." Or, "I just decided to chuck that book. It made everyone miserable." Or, "I knew grammar instruction was a waste of time this year." Or finally, "She does so much better when I let her work independently." You know your child. You know your family. You know what keeps people happy and at peace. Trust yourself. What do you have to lose? Test your idea with your child and see what happens when you do. Then make adjustments. But start from your hunches, your inner knowing. Quote of the day. Being the only one among our friends and family who homeschool, it always feels like public school is lurking around. I know I feel a lot of worry with our move from Canada to the U.S. I feel out of my element and now have to show everyone here that we know what we're doing. Thank you for reminding me that I do know my kids. Lisa Johnson. Sustaining thought. No one knows your kids better than you. Trust your instinct. Won't lie. One of the things that I share in conferences all the time is the notion of what I call the ghost of public school past. Her name is Mrs. Cox. She has a red pen, and she lives right here. She sits on your left shoulder, and she whispers in your ear. You know, by 4th grade, they're all writing narrative and descriptive paragraphs. By 6th grade, they're writing 5-paragraph essays. Or, did you know that so-and-so down the street has her son in pre-algebra and he's only in 6th grade? You are behind. Do you know that voice? She whispers all these insecurities based on the only thing maybe that you know, which was public school, or maybe even institutional private school. Of course, now we have a whole crop of home educators who are raised by parents who homeschooled them. And maybe the voice in your ear is the ghost of homeschool past, your childhood experience of homeschool, where your parents used PACEs or they had a rigid idea of homeschool and now you're trying to be free. Or maybe your parents were very unschooly and you're trying to bring structure to your children. Regardless of your educational background, there is a ghost from your past experience that lurks right here and is ready to sow doubt into any time you want to go a new direction. Because the only thing we cling to is what's familiar, what we already know how to do, what we experienced, what we see broadcast around us. And it's very difficult to take the risk and go where we haven't been yet. You know what I'm saying? There are times when you will find yourself wanting to take a path, and right behind it is that doubt. That's what I mean. But what's really incredible to me is when I listen to the way parents creatively follow their instincts, I think teachers in classrooms wish they had this good idea. For instance, I spent time in England over the last month. I was there for about 6 days, stayed with a fabulous family, the Davies. Shout out to Thomas and Elizabeth and Lydia, who were the children that welcomed me into their home. Their mom, Belinda, has shown me so many creative ways that she has helped her kids. One of her kids has found reading a challenge. Who doesn't? Every child finds it a challenge. But her way of addressing why it might have been painful is to set up a special tea time. They call it a reading tea. They're in Britain. They already know the tea gig. They do poetry tea times. But they set up a special reading tea that is just between mom and daughter, and the daughter brings her little baby doll, and all of the treats are miniature. And Belinda has typed up these little stories that include the vocabulary that her daughter is really skilled at reading. And they read those together in this nice little book she made for her. And now that daughter, sweet Elizabeth, wants to do them when she has a child. Like, that's how much it transformed her experience. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Could you recognize that a switch in logistics, a moment of tenderness, paying attention to what works for your child, could that be the thing that changes the momentum for the entire family and especially for an individual child? You won't know until you jump off the ledge. You won't know until you give yourself permission to set aside the curriculum. Sometimes it means a deliberate pause until a new idea has room to come to you. You can't get to that new idea without space. You have to gestate. We talked about this yesterday. You have to give the pause an opportunity to yield something new. If you keep fighting with the thing that's not working, there's no room for a new idea to come. The second thing that I want to express is this. Your child gives you the information you need. The books don't. Now, there's a lot to learn from books, and I certainly have done my share of reading them. And when I've been stuck, research has been my best friend. You know, I can just go to the library in the old days before the internet, or hop online, type in a search word, and start giving myself new language to express what I see, to find out what's going on. But even if I read a book on ADHD, or I read about reading struggles, or I read about new tactics in how to teach math, even if I do that, the most useful information I get is observation of my actual human being child that lives in my home. And here's the reason. You are with them 24 hours a day. This is data no book knows about. So yes, you might have a child with ADD, let's say, and you even have a diagnosis. And so you read a book that helps you understand what it's like to live in the mind of someone with a short attention span who struggles to stay on task. And you might even read some strategies for how to address that. But you live with this child. So if you've noticed that when you sit next to that child, there's improvement, or when you give affirmation, your child seems responsive, or when you get that child one-on-one and you take him somewhere where he isn't distracted by his siblings, things go better, well, follow that hunch. Don't assume that just because a clinician gave you a strategy that it's the right one for your child. Most books are written for classroom settings, for dealing with groups, for dealing with the typical child with ADD. That's not your kid. So you can trust that. You can look at your child and do research. In the Homeschool Alliance, where we have our coaching community, CoachJulieBogart.com, we would actually give you that kind of support and feedback if you need it. There are parents in there right now sharing exactly what their kids are going through and how they've solved some of those problems. So that might be something that you look into if you want to brainstorm and get a community vibe, not just this sort of clinical, distant experience that comes through a book, which, like I said, books are great, but I'm just talking about giving you a richer, fuller experience. Does that make sense? You get there through observing your child and being in community. Another principle that's common in Brave Writer that we talk about is chasing inspiration. She's not a lengthy visitor when she shows up. So if you have this idea of scrapping something or following a hunch, get on it. I'm going to fix this a little bit. Get on it. Jump on it. Follow your hunch, because it's going to go away if you don't take that gift and act on it. Inspiration only revisits us if we give it permission to have a place at the table. So if you've got this big lineup of what you're going to do today, but suddenly you hear about free passes at the zoo, and that sounds good, please just drop what you're doing and go to the zoo. Conversely, if you wake up and you've got a thick head and you didn't have time to exercise and you changed a wet bed because somebody wet the bed last night and you nursed all night, well then it's okay to just do the routine, to get up, put the books on the table, and follow the predictable pattern of the family. It's this toggling between chasing inspiration and following the routine that you want to pay attention to. Does that make sense? Here's the reason. All of us have an ideal in our heads of how homeschool should look. And the shouldness of that vision sometimes interferes with what could create the most momentum and the greatest growth in your kids. So trusting your instinct, following inspiration, paying close attention to your child, these are your three biggest allies in homeschool. And then just flick the ghost of public school, private school, homeschool past right off your shoulder and give yourself permission to be the brilliant educator you're becoming. You know, you are an expert. You are becoming an expert in a way that nobody else can be in your family. Our world of homeschooling has a contribution to make to the field of education. We are revolutionizing, transforming what it means to educate children. And you're on the cutting edge. So of course it's uncomfortable sometimes. And of course you're going to have some spectacular flops. You know, we never successfully got kitchen chemistry going beyond the, baking soda volcano. Every year Jacob wanted to do it. I bought the book, I made note cards, I did grocery shopping lists, but there were always 2 or 3 ingredients that had to come from some weird science store that I never had the motivation to track down. And so that never happened, even though I worked on it every single year for about 10 years. Do you hear what I'm saying? Did that stunt Jacob's development? I don't know. Maybe he was supposed to be a scientist, but I'll take what he's doing. He's working on his law degree at Columbia Law and Human Rights. I think he is going to survive without kitchen chemistry. It might have added something, might have sent him in another direction, but where he turned out to go worked out for him, and it fit with who we were, and it happened to be his strength and my strength. So that's what happens. There's stuff that you're not going to do that you think would be in the best interest of your child, and it's not in your best interest, so it won't happen. When I was raising my kids initially, before we moved to Ohio, we lived in Southern California, LA. And I had 2 redheaded children who were gorgeous, if I say so myself. And repeatedly, even people who had kids who had agents and were in acting, I had people come to me and say, your kids could get work. They could be in, commercials. They could be in print ads. You should get an agent. And this is what I used to always say. So listen to what I used to say, because this is true about everything, not just about whether or not they're going to be models. I said, they might be the right kids, but they don't have the right mother. I am never doing that. I am never doing that. I am never putting my kids in ads. I am never commercializing who they are, what they look like. But that was true about kitchen chemistry, right? That's what turned out to be true. I may have had the right kid for kitchen chemistry, but they didn't have the right mother. So there's an intersection between who you are and what your kids are and the culture you're going to create together. You can't do everything. You're not going to do everything well. But the things that you can do well, please do them. Please make time and space. Follow that inspiration. Make that a cornerstone of this awesome home education journey you take with your kids. Because that's what creates the amazing human beings they grow up to be. And you get to shape that with your own imagination and energy, not just with a curriculum discovery or a program someone gives you. Those are tools to support you in your unique educational vision. And you all have one. And in my heart, I hope that when you use Brave Writer, that's how you think about it. Brave Writer is a partner in helping you create your unique educational vision. So there will be parts of it that you love and help you get there, and then other parts of it that maybe don't work for you. Guess what? I'm good with all of that. The bottom line is, you're the one who dictates what your homeschool should be. And I'm here cheering you on. Nobody gets to decide for you. And you should decide for you. That's my only should. Don't let anyone shame you, blame you, take you out, judge you. You're about to go into Thanksgiving. We'll talk about that next week if you're an American. And we'll talk about what to do with the pop quizzes from the aunts and uncles, right? Because they always come. We'll talk about it. But until then, just stay connected as best you can to who you are and who your kids are. There are, of course, things you want to make happen for your children that you aren't good at, that they want. And that's an opportunity to involve them more deeply in the process. Get them to do some research. Involve their other parent, if there's another parent in the family, or a grandparent or a neighbor. When Noah wanted to get into carpentry, there was no way I was going to outfit a workshop in my garage or basement. I didn't know the first thing about a skill saw, never wanted to own one. So I had to go look for that. And when Katrin decided to quilt, even though I knew how, I was in grad school. I knew that wasn't when I was going to teach her quilting. So I triangled in one of my good friends locally, and she joined a quilting club of homeschooled girls. So it doesn't mean you have to do everything, but if you're going to do anything, do something you love and are good at and that you feel comfortable doing. And then triangle in outside resources when you need them. Oops. Makes sense? Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to go. I have a big day of work to get to, and then LeBron James to moon over. So that's going to be my day. And then tomorrow, we will read day 44. There are 50 essays in each of these books, and now might be a good time to think about the winter version of A Gracious Space. So I put the link inside this description for this broadcast. We will not start that until after the holidays. I'm going to take a break for the fall, and we will start in winter. So I look forward to sharing more with you tomorrow, and I hope you have a great day. Live honestly, write bravely, and kick the ghost of public school past off your left shoulder. Bye, everybody.